If you actually knew the recipe for libido and you could control it because you understood the factors, specifically the exact factors that drive libido, well, you would always have libido, wouldn't you? On TRT, there are 5 things that control libido. And, none of these are your dose, and none of these things are testosterone itself. You know what testosterone's good for? The muscles, boys. Everything else in the right ranges is where your libido comes. So I'm going to break this down for you folks so that people truly understand, so that you're not operating from myths out there, whether given by misinformed YouTubers or misinformed Redditors. These are the things that control libido on TRT. All right, before we start the video, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guidance, sexual dysfunction resolution, performance optimization company. Probably the most important things for you guys to note are, number 1, coaching is still 50% off. I've opened 20 slots up. 3 have filled since I've opened these additional 20 slots, or 17 slots open. Coach discount is the code. Saves you thousands of dollars on one-on-one coaching with me. Source list, 30% off. Code is SOURCE30. You can find that down in the description of this video, and all links and codes for the major discounts we have going on right now. Now, this right here, let's just start off by this. This is a terrible place to be. When you don't know the factors that drive libido and you can't strategically manipulate the protocol to get them where they need to be, you're going to be like this guy, and you're going to be helpless. Has anyone's libido never returned no matter what they did? The guy goes, it's been 10 years since I ran a cycle, so a cycle toasted this guy's libido. My libido went, but no matter what I've done, hundreds of blood tests, every dose imaginable, it hasn't come back. Part of the answer to the factors that drive libido can be found in this guy's answer right here. He goes, try topical cream on the balls and test prop. They both worked for me until E2 got too high. Let's think about that and couch that for a second. How to dramatically increase libido for a weekend? You could hack libido for a weekend, get a little more DHT, lower estradiol a little bit, and there you have your libido. But people are just confused is the point. There are 5 factors that drive libido on TRT. 2 of them are neurotransmitters, and both of them are influenced by hormones. Number 1, first thing that controls libido on TRT is DHT. The internet is a weird place. And you have people who are actually convinced, who convince other people that dihydrotestosterone, which is the most sexually active and effective androgen that you could make, inject, or apply to your skin, somehow isn't involved in libido. Look, DHT drives that masculine drive both to reproduce as well as to have sex. It does so via a variety of different mechanisms, not just heavy androgen receptor binding, where it stays at the AR for far longer than testosterone, enough to invoke the androgen receptor mediated gene expression that then has profound effects on the limbic system of the brain, which is the arousal center of the brain. A part of why DHT helps libido, in addition to the limbic side of things and the AR binding, is that DHT is the androgen that you need for the maintenance and the optimization of blood vessels that supply the penis with blood to facilitate erections. DHT itself is a heavy dopamine release agent. The thing that's most striking to me that I've seen in years upon years of coaching people that have taken hair loss drugs is that when you remove the DHT, as is the case with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, these people need pretty, I guess you could call it hardcore, just super graphic, super over-the-top pornography in order to get turned on, which would tell you something, right? That the circuits for getting turned on, i.e. DHT, are so fried, and you've been in such a shortage of it, that you need pretty hardcore stuff to even get the gears moving a little bit. Everybody's going to find that when libido is lacking on TRT, as long as it's not estrogen that is super above your range, that adding just the right amount of DHT solves the libido problem. I know. I've got a lot of experience both with clients, but I've used potent DHT gel myself, the 20% stuff. You can find it in source list. And the way my sex drive goes to okay and fine, because I'm dialed in on a TRT protocol, to fucking incredible is astonishing. So that's number 1. But specifically, you have to have the DHT in the range that makes sense for you. Too much DHT, you're going to inhibit estradiol. Not enough DHT, you're not getting the androgen receptor mediated brain stuff that really facilitates sex drive in males. As I've said, practical takeaway, it's only a little bit more DHT on top of what you're already using and injecting that most folks need to refire libido. Transdermal DHT, or a little bit of low concentration test cream on top of your injection protocol. The second thing that controls libido is estrogen, but it doesn't control it in the way that people think. It's that if you have this narrow window of where estradiol, sensitive, needs to be. Above that window, you start inhibiting some of the neurological aspects of libido. This is where, through the hypothalamus pituitary pathways, dopamine fires to enhance libido. Below that range, though, the same type of suppression of the mental side of libido happens. So it's not that estrogen is necessary for libido. Estrogen is necessary for libido insofar as it being in the tight window that makes sense for your body. Again, usually 25 to 35 picograms per milliliter on any dose of test. At the same time, since erections to some extent drive libido, you'll see anecdotals of people taking tadalafil and suddenly the libido goes up. People are like, well, it's Cialis. It's a dick drug. It's not increasing your libido. Well, when you have better erections and better sensitivity via the nerve endings being alive and a lot of blood flow to the penis, well, certainly you're going to want to do something with it. But because estrogen is counter to erectile tissue in terms of optimal functionality, estrogen reduces your libido when it's too high via messing with erections. The best ways to get estrogen in range are the ways that everyone knows, except people think of it like one or the other. Okay, so I take an AI, but if you can't dial an AI in, then what do? You've got to switch to Primo or Master on the DHT derivative, see if you can dial those in. If you can't dial those in, you got to go on a lower dose. But ultimately, if you find a set it and forget it dose of Arimidex or Aromacin, you get your estrogen in that range, and you don't respond super poorly to aromatase inhibitors, as some people do, well, then you're good to go. But if you don't, you go down to 100 milligrams, as I've said many, many times again, just a low enough dose where estrogen goes in range. You get a little bit of HCG, a little bit of DHEA. You see how you fare. If after that point things aren't perfect, you need a little more DHT, that solves the problem. But importantly, you got to get the E2 in your range, and it's everybody's job to identify exactly what that range is on their bloods. Third thing that controls libido, which a lot of people sort of have the wrong idea about, is functional testicles and the ensuing neurosteroid cascades that they produce. In the testicles, as well as in the sex organs, you have a significant amount of 5-alpha reductase enzymes. They're in the pitubular myoid cells, they're in the Sertoli cells, they're in the epididymis, they're in the seminal vesicles. Your sex organs are loaded with 5-alpha reductase enzymes. And if you're just taking testosterone, but you're not having functional testicles, like with the use of HCG, you're missing out on the sex organ DHT, which needs to nourish said sex organs for optimal sexual function. The testicles fire correctly, then you're making adequate amounts of 3-alpha androstenediol, which actually balances excitatory neurotransmission and makes it so that glutamate, acetylcholine aren't firing out of control, which can, when they're too high, inhibit libido. Also, as you guys know, 3-alpha androstenediol is a modulator allosterically of the GABA-A receptors. It just means the GABA signal at the GABA-A receptors is more potent and continually upregulatory via 3-alpha androstenediol, which comes only from functional testicles. Now, 3-bravo-androstenediol, another neurosteroid that comes from functional testicles, which you need, is an agonist at the estrogen receptor beta. Now, that sounds bad, right? Estrogen's bad, but the estrogen receptor beta pathway is the pro-sexual pathway, right? It's the ERA pathway that you don't want to be over-agonizing. One of the things that does is modulate serotonergic tone, okay? So you need the 3-bravo-androstenediol from the functional testicles to modulate serotonergic tone so that you don't have too much serotonin, which blunts dopamine and blunts libido. Have functional testicles, guys. Then there's estradiol. Try going no HCG and rubbing 6 pumps of a high concentration transcranial cream on the testicles, and people think that's going to give them skyrocketed DHT and test, and estrogen is going to be low and everything's going to be good. You're going to have no libido because it kills the intratesticular estradiol. Okay, you don't need a lot of it. You need small amounts of it. It's the same thing as in your serum. You crush estrogen, you're going to be up shit's creek. The intratesticular sex hormones also need to be in their proper ranges. And the only way you're going to do that is by keeping the testicles functional with HCG. Then there's androsterone. It's a little less of a potent modulator of GABA A, a little less important, but still important. Again, you get that from functional testicles, which you get by using HCG. And then there's the pregnenolone and progesterone pathways, which are a little less consequential, but they still need to be functional for you to have the fullest libido that you could have on TRT, which again you induce by keeping the testicles functional. Interestingly, like intratesticular testosterone, which you get from keeping the testicles functional, acts as sort of like a hub substrate, not only for androgens but estradiol and GABAergic neurosteroids. Together, that's part of what orchestrates libido, guys. Erectile quality as well, emotional tone as well, and interestingly, brain plasticity. This stuff goes a lot deeper than you think. Fourth thing, the fourth factor that drives libido, which you must make sure is optimized, you can only really do it sustainably via hormones, is dopamine. Fastest way to inhibit dopamine? Have your estrogen too high, right? You upregulate serotonergic receptor activity, you downregulate dopaminergic firing in the brain, you reduce your libido with too much estrogen. Dopamine, though, you can't sustainably just try to increase it without influencing the hormones. Again, TEST and DHT modulate dopamine in a way that is prosexual. But if you were to just take like a gram of Mucuna purines, or you just ran a cycle of 9-MeBC, but you did nothing at your hormones, eventually the dopaminergic pro-libido effect that the dopamine agents would have would die off, because you can't sustain proper dopamine firing without a proper hormone profile. So you really need to do nothing. Testosterone and DHT itself facilitate the conversion and the synthesis of precursors of dopamine into usable brain dopamine. And the androgen receptor-mediated gene expression and AR activation in the brain and limbic system is what controls the dopaminergic side of libido. So you need the dopamine, but you're not going to be able to get it by not thinking about hormones and leaving your testicles atrophying, but just taking some dopaminergic. So please remember that. Dopamine, yes, is very, very important, and it's easily achievable via the right hormone protocol. I get plenty of people that come to me that have been stuck in the forums for years about their sexual dysfunction, and they think it's dopamine strictly because they have anhedonia, etc. And dopaminergics work for 4 days, and then they stop working. The hormones modulate the brain, guys. Keep that in mind. Last thing, last factor. Again, it's important. It's just not something that you really need to focus on all that much, with the exception of maybe some supplementation or maybe a particular food that you need to get into your diet every day, is acetylcholine, guys. Acetylcholine. Too much acetylcholine, bad for libido. Too little acetylcholine, bad for libido. The right amount of acetylcholine, right? This is an excitatory neurotransmitter involved in hippocampal memory synthesis and general information processing. It's actually the beginning process of the libido cascade. Acetylcholine fires from the brain. You have some sort of shortage of that, like you're taking an anticholinergic drug as an example. Sleep aids they block acetylcholine receptors. Well, then the whole beginning part that gets you going regarding libido is not going to work. The solution to all things acetylcholine is to take very, very low dose citicholine. Okay, it's a nootropic. I'm talking about 40 to 50 milligrams a day, 40 to 50 milligrams every other day. You don't want to take too much of that shit. It's very, very bioavailable, let's call it. I mean, it absorbs so much. It's like 97%. That's almost absolute. Okay, so that's one way to get it. The other way is eat eggs. Eat eggs. Eat foods with choline, but specifically eggs. Every day, every morning, I eat eggs. That's been a staple in my regimen for years upon years, and it's never going to change. And it's a part, in addition to all this other stuff, of why my libido is always pretty good. Question then is, how do you manipulate your protocol to make sure all those things are straight? And the answer is, have enough DHT, have your estradiol in your sweet spot, have functional testicles, and let the rest take care of itself. It's your job to know. I mean, this is why people pay me the big bucks, to figure out what ranges they need to be in regarding these hormones. But if you're going at it alone, it's your job to understand you got to have the estrogen range. Stop listening to these folks on YouTube. Okay, estrogen is a female hormone, and that's just it. Yes, we make a little bit of it, and we make a little bit of it for a fucking reason. A little bit. You got to have the E2 in your spot, boys. Okay, it's the single biggest thing second to DHT. Once it's in its spot, then focus on DHT. Get that in your range, the optimal sweet spot, which is variable. Sometimes injections, you don't make enough DHT. Sometimes you're clearing too much DHT. Sometimes you're just not converting enough because you've got impairment of 5-alpha reductase enzymes. You have to figure this stuff out. But when you get the DHT where it needs to be, and then estrogen is also in range, while you have functional testicles, you'd be hard-pressed to find a guy that doesn't have rockin' libido all the time. Libido is controlled by those 5 things. There is no mystery box within which there is some like unknown set of chemical conditions that like drive libido in men related to like, forget about the PT-141s and the MT2s and all this stuff. Do it the right way and you'll have libido forever. All right, as I said in the beginning, boys, coaching is 50% off. I mean, this is the biggest discount that I've ever run on coaching. We booked a lot of people, and it's been super fun, and I got slots open because there's people closing from previous sessions. So right now, I've got 17 slots that are open. The discount code to use is Coach Discount. It is on the screen. I'll leave it there for a second. You can book me for a 1 month, a 3 month, a 6 month, a 1 year. For those of you with the budget, you're saving thousands of dollars per coaching plan. One-on-one coaching with me. Whatever your protocol issues are, sexual dysfunction, PFS, can't dial in libido and erections on TRT, we'll get it resolved. Book me in under a minute and let's get on the fact-finding call as soon as tomorrow. livecortex.com. Major discount, boys, going away soon. Source list, 30% off. Again, probably the most valuable thing is the 20% DHT gel, but also testable lashes. Anything that you need. Sometimes you have to circumvent the clinic and do your own thing to dial in. They don't necessarily care. Get the source list, livecortex.com. Get it cheap, get it discounted. This stuff is discounted now. Source list and coaching. It's not going to be discounted forever, boys. Go pull the trigger. livecortex.com. All right, the time has come for us to complete the video. Thanks for being with me. If you guys would just like... Hold on. Can't get the outro right. God. What is wrong with this chair? God damn it. Sorry. Just get my shit together here. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to be with me. Like the video. Makes the mic. This is the 12th day in a row I forgot the mic. I'm just mad at myself for it now. Give me this. We're done here. Been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you, boys. Hope you had a great week and hope you have a great rest of your week. Much more content coming this week, every day this week if I can help it, unless something gets in the way. Do things for me if you would. Like the video. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference, boys. Takes you a second. Do it for your boy. Otherwise, if you're new to this channel, look, we break down TRT, sexual function, sexual optimization from a scientific perspective and an experience-based perspective. There's not a lot of folks out there doing that. I'd love to have you on board as a subscriber. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you boys tomorrow.